Welcome back to the Sober Sex Sofa. My name is Shanti Patty Owen, and I am your host for this channel. Oftentimes, the client can be resistant to having a sober companion. It's not like we open the door and they're like, "Oh, great to meet you." I have been asked, what is exactly a sober companion? Because I do announce it on other videos. And it's actually quite simple, but most people have never heard of it, not even people in the recovery field. So a sober companion, like myself, work with people in recovery, usually early on in recovery. Either we work with clients who've just come out of rehab or just come out of sober living. And sometimes we come in as a replacement for both of these two institutions. So a sober companion, actually, this is perfect. I'm on a sober companion assignment right now, sitting on my sofa. We are soon leaving this assignment because her sober legs are really strong and she doesn't need us to live underfoot. I have been working 4 weeks on, and then I go home for 4 weeks, and another companion comes and stays here, and she works with the client for 4 weeks. What we do is we support our client in maintaining a sober lifestyle. So, what happens is when clients go to rehab, they are in the perfect private bubble where they can really dive into the issues of what caused them to start using in the first place. And then what happens is, if they don't choose to go to a sober living facility for various reasons, we, in a way, kind of replace that sober living. So we bring sober living to their home. So let me give you a screenshot of what it looks like from the beginning when we first start working with a client. Oftentimes, the client can be resistant to having a sober companion, either because the parents required it, the boss required it. So sometimes, as sober companions, it's not like we open the door and they're like, "Oh, great to meet you." As a matter of fact, I would say more often than not that is the case. So what our job is at the beginning is really just to get to know the client. And I use something called motivational interviewing, where I really spend a lot of time to find out what is it that they want? What are they looking for in their life? Whether it's around sobriety or whether it's around their hobbies, their work, their family. And so a lot of the beginning stages are getting to know one another because trust is really important. And most sober companions, I would say probably 98% of them, have addiction issues themselves, because an addict really doesn't trust people unless they've been in the trenches like them. It's interesting. I'm sitting on this couch and I realize that when I'm first with a client, it's kind of more like this, sort of sideways, like they don't often want to be confronted face to face. There's a lot of time spent watching movies. We watch movies together. It's like young children do something called parallel play. They don't often directly interact with each other, but they play but next to each other. So in a way, that's what we do. We get to know each other in a very non-confrontational way. And then as we get to know each other more, I can kind of lean in more, you know, and have some more challenging conversations. And we often find there's a lot of history of trauma. So one of the uh, one of the activities that we do, besides nightly writing down how the day went, is what were the challenges, what were the wins, and we come up with a plan. Is it to find them a therapist? Is it to find them a nutritionist? Is it to find them a personal trainer? It also varies greatly on each client how long we stay in. I've been in as short as 4 days, and I've been in as long as 2 years. It really depends on the client and how they're feeling, and also why we're here. The clients usually that want us to leave are the ones who it's been imposed upon them, and they really don't want somebody living in their space or living nearby. And these are the clients that oftentimes don't even want to be sober. And that's, you know, it's heartbreaking, and we have to, accept that not everybody truly wants to stay sober. Now, a sober coach, here's the difference between a sober companion. Just notice that a sober companion usually lives with the client 24/7. A sober coach does not live with the client. Now, during COVID, this was a good majority of the clients that I worked with during COVID was coaching. So we did Zoom or FaceTime or telephone for an hour or two a day. And sometimes we would bookend, we'd have a session in the morning for an hour or two, and then have a session in the evening for an hour or two. This does not require us to live with them. Sober coaching is also another step down. A lot of times after someone's had a sober companion, they will want to keep a sober coach. We're a temporary support system for our clients, and our goal is to support them in finding the support system in their area. Sober coaching is also a great experience for a client to put their toe in the water, because what we do as a sober coach, very different from a sponsor in the 12-step programs, is we look at their entire life. We don't just take them through the steps. As a matter of fact, as a sober coach or a sober companion, we do not take them through the steps. We encourage them to find a sponsor who will take them through the steps. What we do is we support their sobriety. We look kind of like if you've ever had a small child and you're child-proofing your house, sometimes they have companies that will come in and look for areas that could be dangerous. So that's one of the things that we do. We come in, we take a look at your life, we ask you many questions. Boy, do we ask you many questions to find out what areas could be problem areas for you in the future. So there you have the difference between a sober companion and a sober coach. Now, you might want to know how I got into this industry. Everybody asks me. And I said, well, when I wrote my memoirs about my sex and love addiction, and when I'd finished writing, I decided to go back to corporate. I used to be a legal secretary for 7 years. And I thought, well, I'll just go back to that. And I was unhireable as as the staffing people told me, because they Googled me and they saw, not only did they see the introduction to my memoir, it had not yet been published, but I had written several articles. Excerpts had been available on the internet. And this one guy said to me, "We can't get you a job with that out there." And I just remember going home crying, just thinking, well, what am I going to do for work? I mean, that's what I had been doing for 7 years. And I remember laying on my bed crying and saying to myself, who's going to hire somebody with an addiction? Who's going to hire somebody with an addiction? And I heard this voice say, who would hire someone with an addiction? And I thought, yeah, who would? Now, that doesn't seem too profound, but I will tell you, in the next half an hour, I kept asking me, who would hire someone with an addiction? Who would hire someone with an addiction? And I decided to investigate careers that involve the addiction recovery field. And that is how I discovered this one. And I love it. I love working with people. I love helping people who are in challenging positions to find light again at the end of the tunnel, because I was certainly there for a long time. Thank you all for being here. I look forward to seeing you on the next Sober Sex Sofa. You can also send me those questions. And remember, you can always email me those questions you're too embarrassed to post. That's it. Sober companions and sober coaches. That's the difference. And that's a great joy with both of them. So thank you very much for being here. I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. I love being comfortable on the Sober Sofa with everybody. please keep coming back to the Sober Sex Sofa. Thank you, thank you, thank you.